about Revelation 22:19. If you got your Bibles, turn with me to Revelation 22:19. And if anyone takes away from the words of this book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part from the book of life, from the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. The problem is that they think that we totally eliminate the Old Testament. And that's not the case at all. The Old Testament is like a major priority for us to study because that teaches the faith and works of God and his magnificence. But for some reason, when we claim the title of New Testament Christian, some folks have the comment, well, I go by the whole Bible, not just half. Well, I do too. But I try to live my life according to the law that Jesus Christ established when he was on this earth and try to mimic his ways to the best of my ability. There are several obvious reasons between the New and the Old Testaments. For instance, marriage. Many times in the Old Testament, you see cases of polygamy. And if you would, turn your Bibles to Genesis 25, verse 6. But Abraham gave gifts to his sons to concubines, which Abraham had. Concubines, that's like a lower stature of wife. And while he was still living, he sent them eastward away from Isaac his son to the country of the east. So concubines is like a lower stature of wife, but yet it's still a wife. So he obviously had more than one wife. Or the story of Jacob in Genesis 29, when he works for 7 years to let Laban give him Rachel. But instead, he tricks him and gives him Leah. So Jacob ends up having to work 7 more years to get Rachel. But when he married Rachel, not only did Rachel and Leah, not only did he get just them two, but he also got their handmaidens, or concubines. So he obviously had more than one wife, polygamy. Or David. Only 8 of his wives are specifically mentioned in the Bible. But if you would turn with me to 2 Samuel 5:13. And David took more concubines and wives from Jerusalem after he had come from Hebron. Also more sons and daughters were born to David. So obviously he had 7. Or King Solomon, he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. That is 1,000 women. It's all I can do to wait on one to get ready in the morning, much less 1,000. So we've seen that under the old law, that polygamy and or marrying more than one wife is okay. But if you look in the New Testament, Jesus has something different to say. Matthew 19, 4 through 6. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. So obviously Jesus says that holy matrimony is only meant to be between 2 people, one male and one female. Another example is 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 2. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Now, when Paul says that, he says one wife, his own wife and her own husband. I'm no English scholar, but I know the difference between singular and plural nouns. So why was there such a change in that way of life, from having many wives to only having one? Christ made it new in the New Testament. Another difference between the Old and the New is clean and unclean animals, or food. The Old Testament teaches that the camel, the hare, the rock hyrax, eagles, vultures buzzards, falcons, hawks, owls, storks, the heron, bats, and even pigs, or anything that's in the water that doesn't have scales or fins, is unclean, and we shouldn't eat it. Well, not that I would eat any of those anyway, but still, there's several guidelines that were meant to be followed. Now, if you would turn with me to Acts chapter 10, verse 9. We're going to start in verse 9, we're going to read through 15. The next day, as they went on their journey and drew near the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And then he became very hungry and wanted to eat. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened and an object like a great sheet bound at four corners descending to him and let down to the earth. In it were all kinds of four-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, creeping things, and birds of the air. And a voice came to him, "Rise, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I have never ate anything common or unclean." And a voice spoke to him again the second time, "What God has cleansed, you must not call common." This was done 3 times, and the object was taken up into heaven. So, obviously, things changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The things that were unclean in the New Testament, like pigs, are now clean. So we can eat them. I mean, how would you like to live without bacon? But another difference between the Old and the New Testament that I looked at is worship music. Music in the church, a topic that is overlooked by so many. In the Christian age, or the New Testament when it was established, musical instruments in the church didn't come to be until the 6th century AD. That's 600 years after Christ. There are 9 verses in the New Testament that mention music. And we're going to look at all 9 of them. Matthew 26:30. Now, this is right after Christ had instituted the Lord's Supper. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And when they had sung a hymn, they sung a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. Now, Acts 16, when Paul and Silas are in jail. If you look at Acts 16:25. But at midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. It says that they were singing, praying and singing. It doesn't mention them playing an instrument or making music with anything except their God-given instrument, and that's their voice. Romans 15:9. And that the Gentiles might glorify God for his mercy, as it is written, "For this reason I will confess to you among the Gentiles and sing to your name." And if you would, look at verse 11 too. "And again, praise the Lord, all you Gentiles, laud him, all you peoples." Laud, which is to sing. 1 Corinthians 14:15. What is the conclusion then? "I will pray with the Spirit, and I will also pray with the understanding. I will sing with the Spirit, and I will also sing with the understanding." So, when we're singing praise to God, we're not just supposed to sing out of tradition. We're supposed to really understand what we're talking about, what we're singing about, and we're supposed to really grasp it. And tonight, y'all did great. I agree with Brother Drew. Tonight we sounded great. It sounded like we actually knew what we were singing about. Ephesians 5:19. "Speaking to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord." Next one is Colossians 3:16. richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your heart to the Lord. Hebrews 2:12. Saying, I will declare your name to my brethren in the midst of the assembly. I will sing praise to you. James 5:13. Is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing psalms. Now, if you look, now the music praise in the Old Testament is a bit different. Several times we read of instruments being used to praise God, and a lot of the time, or several of those times, it actually lists specific instruments. For instance, 1 Chronicles 13:8. Then David and all Israel played music before God with all their might, with singing harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on cymbals, and the trumpets. Or you can go to Psalms 150.